Nicholas Rossi update! It's day 2 of the criminal trial, and we got an absolute ton of witnesses today, kicking off with another woman who claims that Rossi attacked her and who is the victim in his next trial coming up in September. To keep things straight, we're going to call the victim in this case, who testified yesterday, M. And the victim in the next case, who is testifying today, we're going to call her K. Judge Lawrence instructed the jury that they can only consider K's testimony to establish if M is being truthful about hers. The jury cannot convict or otherwise hold against Rossi anything that K claims he did, as he is only on trial here for the things that M claims he did. Are we clear on that? Moving on. Kay was 21 years old when she met Rossi through MySpace. Ask your parents what that is. And it happened in August of 2008, 3 months before Rossi would meet M. And just like he did with M, Rossi was extremely pushy with Kay, and the relationship moved much faster than Kay would have liked. Rossi lived about 40 miles away from Kay, and because she lived at home with her mom and worked nights, she would sometimes sleep at Rossi's during the daytime so that they would have time to hang out. And one time, Kay woke up and found that Rossi had helped himself to her credit card and bought $400 of crap for himself from Best Buy. And when Kay said, "What the F?" Rossi said, "Don't worry, I'll pay you back." But just like with M, Rossi was controlling, belittling, thieving, and an all-around asshole to Kay. And after about a month of it, she dumped his ass. And then a few weeks later, Rossi called up Kay and said, "Hey, I've got the money I owe you." So Kay went over to Rossi's house and he said, "Surprise, I don't actually have the money. Instead, I'm going to start touching myself in front of you." And Kay was pissed and turned to leave, and that's when Rossi pounced. I won't go into the details of what happened because it's disgusting, but after it was over, Rossi told her, "You need to calm down and it's not that big a deal." Kay immediately went to go tell a guy friend about it who told her she needed to go report it to the cops, because if he did this to someone else, that report would become important. So she did. But in cross-examination, they did point out in the police report that after the attack, Kay did have dinner with Rossi one time. And Kay did tell the interviewing officer at the time that that detail didn't look good. But the police did investigate Rossi, and a little while later, the cops showed up at Kay's door and gave her the money that Rossi owed her. And Rossi called her up and said, "Hey, I gave you the money back, so how about we drop them charges, huh?" And she said, "No, these are two entirely different things." And that's when Rossi went to Plan B and called up the cops himself and said that Kay assaulted him. Rossi's 2008 counter-accusations against Kay were assigned to police officer James Thompson, who was called as the next witness, and Rossi's voluntary witness statement was read into the court. Rossi alleged to Officer Thompson that on 6 to 8 different occasions, Kay, in order to get her money back, would overpower Rossi, pin him down, and force herself upon him sexually, despite Rossi repeatedly saying, "No, I don't want this." Rossi's statement further alleges that Kay would stay at Rossi's for 6 to 9 days at a time, despite Rossi repeatedly asking her to leave, and that Kay even threatened Rossi, saying that she would get her friend to rip all his limbs off and throw them in the river if she didn't get her money back. Defense attorney Samantha Dugan did a very brief cross-examination and asked if Rossi was informed at the time that making false reports to the police was a crime. And Officer Thompson said, yes, of course he was. I guess the defense's strategy here is trying to convince the jury that Rossi wouldn't lie to the cops because lying is a crime and he wouldn't do that, right? The next witness called was Rossi's former roommate at the time of the attack, Eric Seklet-Stua, and I'm only going to say his name one time because it's hard as hell to get right. Eric painted a very unflattering picture of his time living with Rossi. He described Rossi as annoying and clingy, and that nobody wanted to be in the room with Rossi at the same time. Their nickname for him was Hey Man, because anytime Rossi addressed them, he would start the sentence with, hey man. Eric said that Rossi liked to throw around a lot of big words to try and sound smart. Rossi's favorite word was indicative, and Eric still hates that word to this day because of it. Eric also recounted the origin of Rossi's Brown University crest tattoo that was used to identify him. Eric said that Rossi had been drinking a little bit and bragging about how he was going to go to Brown University and wanted to get the Brown University crest as a tattoo. Eric and the other roommates said, well, we all have tattoos and we think they're awesome. You should totally get it. In fact, we know a place that's open. We can go and get it now. And Rossi said, hell yeah, let's do this. Eric also told the jury about the time that Rossi accused him of stealing $240. And Eric said, I didn't steal jack, dude. So Rossi called the cops on Eric, and Eric let the cops search his room, and of course, they didn't find any money. Eric avoided Rossi after that all the way up through December when they were all evicted, and Eric blames Rossi for it. He figures that because Rossi kept bringing cops to the door, either because of his own accusations or accusations against him, that the landlords got fed up and just wanted them all out. On cross, Samantha Dugan asked Eric, do you dislike Mr. Rossi? And Eric said, duh. And you frequently tell stories about your time living with Mr. Rossi for laughs? Yeah, I do. And you goaded him into getting a tattoo. No, it was his idea. We just led the horse to water. The defense's strategy here is trying to suggest to the jury that Eric doesn't like Rossi and maybe he thinks it would be really funny if he went to jail. Tamara Vasquez was called to testify next. She was the prosecutor who was first assigned to the Rossi case before transferring to another jurisdiction. Vasquez was there to confirm Rossi's appearance in a Utah court in January 2024, where he denied being Nicholas Rossi and instead claimed to be Arthur Knight speaking in a bad British accent. The prosecution's intent here is to try to show the jury that Rossi is a shady liar who will do anything to avoid the consequences of his actions. The final witness called was Detective Derek Coates, a 30-year law enforcement veteran who was initially investigating Kay's claims against Rossi and who tracked Rossi to England. Utah was able to charge Rossi based on that and issued a press release. M, the victim in this case, read that press release and reached out to Detective Coates saying, hey, I was also attacked by Rossi. The bulk of Detective Coates' testimony was trying to reconcile any inconsistencies in M's testimony. It was 14 years after the assault, after all, but reaffirming that M had details that made Detective Coates believe she was telling the truth, which he frequently reassured her of. And upon cross-examination, Samantha Dugan pounced on that, calling into question Detective Coates' objectivity, trying to suggest to the jury that M might not be truthful, or that Detective Coates was steering M towards answers he wanted, or even that M and Coates were egging each other on in an attempt to nail Rossi, suggesting that they might be playing fast and loose with the facts. And once Detective Coates was dismissed as a witness, after only 2 days of testimony, the prosecution rested their case. The defense will now have a chance to call their own witnesses, including the police in 2008, who declined to file charges against Rossi despite Kay's accusations. All of that will be coming in day 3, and of course, I will be bringing it all to you. Stay tuned.